something we were just talking about right before we hit record was just, how much I love your energy, how positive you are, but also, within your background, it looks like you're really into holistic health. You have a background in the Army and nutrition and gut stuff as well. So just, can you give everybody who's listening kind of a quick and dirty rundown about kind of who you are, your experience in health and fitness, and your journey?
All right. Yes. Awesome. Thanks for having me on. This is really exciting. I really appreciate you noticing. I have been actually a yoga teacher for 17 years, and how all that came to be and getting into the wellness industry is because my whole life growing up, I had stomach issues. I ate pretty well overall. I didn't eat like a bunch of junk food, but I just didn't digest well. And I always complained about my stomach, and my parents would just be like, think I'm complaining kind of thing. And then when I joined the Army when I was 19, that threw everything off for me. I was really unhealthy. I was drinking beer and smoking cigarettes and eating pizza with the guys, just like horrible. It didn't feel well. When I got out of the Army is actually when I got introduced to yoga, and I fell in love with it. And then there was a yoga, a kickboxing, and a juicing program that like green juices. And I was this is 20 years ago, getting introduced to green juices. And so I started to get into nutrition more and realized I was feeling better, and I lost weight, and my digestion was the big focus for me. So I actually went to school. I have my bachelor's degree in human dietetics and my minor in integrative therapeutic practices, because I was going to become a registered dietitian. And then I found that I didn't like a lot of the government issued nutrition. I didn't agree with the food pyramid. I didn't agree with how there's just so much. It's all about the money. It's like the subsidies, who has the money to fund different things. I didn't agree with how the hospitals feed people. It's like sponsored, by different companies. And I was like, this is not the route I want to go. I want to be preventative and help people feel good, and learn how powerful nutrition is. So I started to heal my gut, and it's a constant journey. It's something that it's the mind and the gut are connected. So really, yoga and nutrition is what saved me from being sick all the time and in pain. And I just wanted to, that's it. Those two things. I was like, I'm passionate about these things now. I want to share it with everybody. And so this is my journey now. And now I'm an online fitness coach. I also teach yoga in person. I do workshops, I do retreats, but I'm expanding into being an online coach and really focused on gut health. So that's where I'm at now.
Awesome. So when you were experiencing some of these issues early on, I think it could be very useful to kind of talk about some of the stomach and digestive issues you were having. And also, like, what were some of the key symptoms you were having, but also people can look out for? Because I think, a lot of people, maybe they have stomach problems, but they just assume like, oh, this is just how it always is. This is just who I am, right? So understanding that we have tools and resources now with science, with professionals like yourself to help take care of the gut, to help nurture the gut. So it's a very healthy ecosystem to digest nutrients, right? So maybe you talk about a little bit, like what were some of the symptoms you were experiencing early on as a kid, and then ultimately common things you see as well within people.
So for me, I would actually have extreme pain, and I would be.
And when did that start?
I wouldn't understand what.
When did it start? At what age?
Oh God, I actually don't know, to say the truth. Like, I feel like I've always had some stomach issues, but it's interesting because I feel like as I've developed different trauma in my life, it's only gotten worse. I feel like I've always had a sensitive stomach when I was a little girl. And every time I would eat certain foods, it would really trigger my gut. So pain was one. Another thing is I was on the end of the spectrum of diarrhea. So it's like constipation, diarrhea. Either one are going to be really uncomfortable, but I was on that spectrum because I have more of this nervous anxiety kind of energy. And I found that, that was the spectrum I'm on. And then also bloating, and bloating can be so uncomfortable. And I mean, sometimes I would think I like take a pregnancy test to be like, am I pregnant? My stomach is so bloated. I can't believe how big it is.
Right.
So it's like those like are the like huge symptoms right there. Also, like I was having a lot of skin issues. So I feel like acne really is your skin is one of the last places that your health shows what's going on inside your gut. So if you have a lot of acne, it can be stemming all the way from your gut. Also getting sick because your gut is unbalanced with healthy bacteria, and so your immunity won't be as strong. You could even get, as far as like getting like common cold and all those things, but then also for women, they can have an imbalance of yeast and get all different kinds of infections down there. So it can like manifest into so many different things. And I'm feeling nauseous, having anxiety about like where is going to be the bathroom. Like that's like was something I would always think about. Like it would ruin things for me too. This is also personal, but like around my time of the month, it gets way worse. So for women that do suffer, it's already a hard time to go through, and then everything gets worse then. So it just amplifies it. So it's just all consuming. I mean, it can really like change the course of your life because you're going to make plans around it. Like you'll cancel plans, or you won't go somewhere because of how you feel, or maybe you won't go to a pool party because you're embarrassed because you're so bloated. Like it really can affect your life. The symptoms can really affect everything.
And
even like intimately too. Like if you're not feeling well, you're not going to want to get intimate, So yeah.
For sure. Yeah. Would you say within the realm of like having these conversations, does it spark, obviously it's like uncomfortable physically to deal with these things, but like emotionally, do you feel like it's difficult for a lot of people to talk about these kinds of things when it comes to constipation, diarrhea? Like we have these walls. Like I could talk about diarrhea all day because I'm a pretty comfortable person, but I understand that not everybody has had that opportunity to feel that comfortable to talk about those types of things. Is that a big barrier? Like a lot of people that are dealing with this issue, but they're too scared to share it or actually talk about it or express it?
Yeah, probably. And actually it sounds so funny. Like I grew up super, super shy. My mom would say poop was a swear word. So like I couldn't even say that when I was little. So I would get scolded for even which if my mom sees it, she'll laugh because she definitely was like that. So for me, I'm like, this is like taboo, like to talk about. And of course, as a woman, right, it's like, no one wants to talk about this, but it's something now that I'm not shy to talk about because it sucks to suffer alone, and I want other people to know that like what's normal too, because sometimes we get used to not feeling well and we don't even know we can feel better. And so there's actually a thing called the Bristol stool chart, which can help if you look at there's a chart that shows pictures of different shape poop and like what, like it has a little description next to it. Right. And it's a scale. So when I do take on a client and I have them fill out their food diary for say a week, I say like on the food diary, at what time did you go to the bathroom? What is it? What number is it on this Bristol stool chart? Because that's an easy way for them to identify without having to really say anything. And they're like, okay, I can just write this number down at what time. And it makes it a little more discreet. Because some people are going to be more shy about that. But when you've really been in a lot of pain and you don't feel good and you're just sick and tired of being sick and tired, then you kind of get to a point where you're going to accept and talk about it and hopefully get the help you need.
Of course. Okay, so one thing you talked about, I definitely want to touch on kind of like your intake process and the things you're looking at when it comes to individual's diet, but also the makeup of like maybe an optimal like stool. But can we first touch on you know something you mentioned and something I have a little bit of experience in, but I'm still a little naive to it is like the mind and the gut and how there's a connection between the two of those things. Can you kind of talk about that a little bit?
Yes, sure. So when I do take on a client, everybody is so different. So I have everyone fill out an intake form with really detailed questions about your whole entire life because I want to see the whole perspective of a person and approach holistically. And when it comes to your gut, I actually, if someone really wants to go in depth with me, I also can have them go through my website and they can go to a lab and we can order a stool sample and we could actually see what like based on the results exactly what's inside their gut as far as all the gut microbiome, the bacteria,
Wow.
the yeast, the fungus, the parasites. It gives exactly what's inside your gut and then it gives you detailed information on how to balance that and what you need to do. So that's like a huge tool that I can offer. I basically I offer discounted lab work. And so I went through this course so that I could offer it just because I knew I wanted to rule out certain things people don't have. And I also want to know, hey, okay, we don't want to guess are you where you're at with certain things. So like food sensitivity tests or just knowing where your vitamins are. And some people don't have insurance. So I wanted it to be a something to offer. And then besides that, and working with someone and with their symptoms and all of that, the mind to gut connection. One of the biggest things is our nervous system, and the vagus nerve actually connects all the way from our brain down into our gut, and it is like a super highway where the information gets passed back and forth. And a lot of times people are so focused on the brain, they don't realize how powerful our gut is. I mean, it's the second brain, right? But there's a reason because even the health of your gut, the microbiome, will influence your brain. So if you had an overgrowth of bad bacteria, and if we think of them like a little army inside of you and they overpower the good bacteria, they can actually affect your brain and override your decisions to make unhealthy decisions and with food. So it can make you crave unhealthy things. And so it's like, may not even really be your fault, right? It is what you're eating, what you're doing, but it's like, you have to realize how powerful that influence is of your gut to your mind. And when you are calm, you're going to be able to digest well too, right? So if you're under stress, your body is even smarter than your mind, and your body will shut down the population of the good bacteria, the probiotics in your gut, the hydrochloric acid, which is the stomach acid, and your digestive enzymes, which break down your food. So that's the digestive juices that are in your gut. And your mind knows that, like, if you're in a dangerous situation, it thinks, even if it's not like a real dangerous situation, but you're nervous or you're upset, you're angry or whatever it is, or it thinks it's in danger. It's like, we don't have time to digest. We got to shut all this down and bring it down. So even if you eat like too fast, or you drink way too much water, you're going to dilute all those good digestive juices. As I always say, our stomach doesn't have teeth, right? So that's how it breaks food down, is moving it around and using all those different digestive juices together. So your mind influences how the population of that microbiome is in your gut.
And is that's where somebody could maybe mistakenly assume that they have some sort of food sensitivity when in reality it's just like maybe they're chronically stressed and whatever they're eating is just giving them physical stress in their stomach because they're just kind of redlined and they don't have the digestive capacity that they are designed to have in that moment?
Yeah, actually, that can be a factor. And even if you've been through trauma, you're not going to have as a healthy microbiome. So you might
Wow.
need the assistance of taking on some supplements to help your gut digest, because it's pretty. That's a pretty good way to look at it. Like, you may not actually have an allergy, and you may, so
Right.
like some people with like, they might just, their gut has been damaged and it's not necessarily an allergy, but the food sensitivity um, may not, say if you take a food sensitivity test and it may not come up as that, it could be that you're just need some help digesting like proteins thing. So you, maybe you're just low on the stomach acid,
Right.
and like hydrochloric acid
Right.
is going to break down proteins, but it also
Yes.
kills the bad bacteria. So it really it could be so many factors. That's why there's not like a easy answer, a one size fits all in it. And it's something to like kind of a little bit of trial and error, but there's some things that all humans go through in their gut.
Yeah, because I think it's easy to demonize like certain foods. It's easier to do that than to just be like, oh, I probably need to optimize the health of my gut, right? Like just saying
Yeah.
gluten's bad for you, or like meat's bad for you because every time you eat it, you don't digest it properly. Well, maybe it's not always the food itself, right? It could be. It definitely could be. We have sensitivities and allergens, but it could be just the literal digestive capacity of your health. So when you look at, I just want to, just for my own sake, you talked about some of the components within the stomach. You talked about good bacteria. Did you say hydrochloric acid? And you said digestive enzymes, correct?
Yes.
Can you talk about kind of how each of those plays a role in digestion?
Oh, yes. So, also something to note, people have also probably been hearing the term prebiotic. So,
Mm-hmm.
prebiotic is the indigestible fibers that we don't normally digest like on our own, but the good bacteria, the probiotics in our gut, it feeds them. So, it's the food for the bacteria. So, that's something to know
Gotcha.
too if you
Okay.
hear that term. So,
So the
yeah. So, like,
probiotic is already it's already occupied in your stomach, but the prebiotic is giving it, nutrients, so to speak, to feed off of and become more powerful and more useful.
yeah. Yeah, so it's
Okay.
the
Okay.
fiber that, so it's really like the insoluble fiber that feeds the bacteria.
And then
And
so is a
so there's a,
probiotic the literal bacteria that just goes directly into the stomach and starts working?
yes.
Okay.
Yes, and we really, the biggest thing that would feed your bacteria is variety. So when they look at different
Mm.
cultures all over the world that have, they look at different gut microbiomes, the ones that have like the most diverse diets have the healthiest microbiomes. And that's because they eat such a variety of foods. If you think about it, most people kind of just eat the same thing all the time, and a lot of it's processed food, so it's not even real food. But the bacteria also it's all over us. It's on us. It's in us. It's just really highly concentrated in our gut, and with your immunity, it's going to, they're all, it's going to help fight any sicknesses, and really a lot of the illnesses that start, because of the unbalance in your gut. So
Right.
that's a big part of trying to try to keep that balance and keep, I always say, just keep the army fighting for you inside of you. And I mean, considering we're mostly made up of bacteria compared to human cells, so pretty interesting. But the hydrochloric acid is another interesting thing too, because a lot of times people that have heartburn think that they have too much stomach acid, but because their stomach is not producing enough on its own, it ends up like overproducing, and it will give heartburn because it's like there's ended up being, it's like when you with lotion, if your skin is oily and you put lotion on, it actually stops your skin from being oily because your skin wasn't, it needed moisture. So it's
Mm.
like once you put moisture on, it won't overproduce oil. I don't know if you've
Gotcha.
ever heard that.
Gotcha. That
Yeah.
makes sense.
So it's
Yeah.
like the same thing with your stomach. If you're like stunted that production of acid in your stomach, or whatever your lifestyle or your food choices have stunted that, your body's going to overproduce it and then cause more stomach acid that is not like, that will make you say when you're laying down, it will come up. So it's actually often a case, like when people take antacids, that's actually the opposite of what you want to do. You want to actually put stomach acid in, and some things you can do too are like apple cider vinegar. I do fire cider shots. I don't know if you've heard of a fire cider, but I actually make that myself. And it's apple cider vinegar, and you put in a bunch of different stuff: garlic, onions, horseradish root, cinnamon, turmeric, ginger, black pepper, lemon, lime. Wow. I think like rosemary, oregano. I think that's about it. But so you let it soak over like minimum 6 weeks or more, and then you strain it out, and then you put it with a bunch of raw local honey, and you shake it up and keep it in the fridge, and you can take shots of it with your meal, and it really helps digestion, and it actually it tastes pretty good. Yeah.
Wow. So is that just is there just more acid in that, so that's helping with the digestion, or is that helping produce more hydrochloric acid?
I mean, and I have jalapenos in there too. Yeah, it's like a powerhouse to help your digestion and your immunity. And there's the ginger in there, the turmeric, but the acid from the apple cider vinegar, and you want the one that says with the mother, it's like the bacteria in there. And but yeah, it's amazing. Like whenever you eat too much, it happens sometimes, you eat too much food, take a shot of that, and it just goes in there and breaks everything down and really helps. So that's a huge I love it. I make big batches of it at a time. I've actually had like a workshop party where we all make one and take some home, and nice. People seem to love it. So that's been one of my tricks that I do.
You have to share that recipe with me.
Yeah, definitely. And it's fun to do. It's like, it's something that I know some people, I like vinegar a lot. Like I'm a big like pickle person. I'm like obsessed with like fermented foods are really great for you too, as far as getting in that gut bacteria, especially anytime you can get your nutrition from food instead of supplements. Of course, like sometimes we need supplements because our food has really been depleted of nutrients, because the soil is now depleted of nutrients. So sometimes we need to take it, but if you can get the source of your nutrients in the supplement is even from food, that's going to be a better supplement for you. And then what was the other one? Oh, digestive enzymes. So like even pineapple and papaya help naturally you digest your food. So eating pineapple like with like dinner, or like at the end of dinner or whatever, that's like actual raw pineapple, not like just the juice. But that's, you can eat that, but also taking digestive enzymes sometimes is necessary. I actually, a lot of times I just keep these kind of pills in my purse when I go out to eat, because I find like when I go out to eat is the time I'm probably going to overeat. And there's definitely little tricks that can help. But yeah, so those are a few things with the microbiome and the digestive enzymes.
When it comes to the digestive enzymes, do we all have like a natural capacity of the amount of nutrients we can absorb? So say like it's protein and I want to optimize the absorption of protein so I can build more muscle mass. Are there people who are digesting every gram of protein as long as it's like a reasonable portion, or are we all compromised in some way with the capacity that we can digest certain things? And does that question make sense? I don't know if that question makes sense.
I wonder,
like, could we all benefit from like you taking digestive enzymes, or is it just not necessary for some people?
Oh yeah. So everybody can benefit from these things. This is like, it doesn't matter who you are. This is like a baseline of what your body needs to do to digest. So it's only going to help optimize. And if you've taken in too much of something, you're going to either just pee it out or poop it out or whatever. Like your body just won't absorb. Like vitamin C, like when people take vitamin C and it's like 1,000% of your daily dose, like you're just going to pee out the rest. It's not going to, but yeah, as far as like digestive enzymes, it honestly, it can't even hurt you to take them. It's just going to if anything, that's the point of it, is that it's going to help your stomach. So it won't upset your stomach to take it.
And it's not going to like desensitize your body's ability to produce those digestive enzymes?
No, if anything, when we talk about like healing the gut, it's there is a period where if someone has a pretty damaged gut, there's going to be a period of where you're going to have to help your gut and flood it with all this good stuff for a while. And then once it's like built up, then you can start to taper off of things and then get to a point where you have a stronger gut again. Sometimes like there's been, like I said, even just trauma. I mean, it can actually cause issues inside your gut. If you're a smoker, a drinker, drug use, things like that can really damage it. So it does need the help to rebuild. And then it's not like, I've heard like taking like melatonin, that's like one of those, if you keep taking it, I think I heard that your body will stop producing it because it's like, I don't need to produce it anymore. And then wow. I've heard that, and I'm not really sure if that's true, but there's no case against like taking stuff for your gut and it won't produce it anymore. It's just, if anything, it will just help get it to be like the levels it needs to be. And then you can give it a break for a little bit and see how you feel.
Gotcha. Okay. So generally, right, and I know a lot of this stuff is very specific to the individual. So answering in generalities can be difficult. But say like, you met me and we're out and I'm talking about how my stomach's banged up and it's not feeling good. I'm not digesting stuff well. What would be like your big rock suggestions when it comes to building back your gut health up? Simple daily things we can do. Maybe let's start at like the diet, nutrition, and then kind of expand upon there. What are like just simple things anybody listening to this could start doing just to make sure they're headed in the right direction for their gut?
Yeah, definitely. I would say number one is drinking water and making sure drinking water technically at room temperature is even better because your body doesn't have to work super hard at getting it to your body temperature before it can utilize it. But the way I also look at that is if you are like, I only drink cold water, I'd rather have you do that than not drink water. It's like, right, of course, if the benefit outweighs the risk, it's more important than you drink water. So could that affect, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I want to dive off on that real quick because I've heard this before. Can like really cold water or even sparkling, like carbonated water that's cold prior to eating a meal affect your digestion? Yeah, because if you, like we were saying, if we're thinking of the gut, it's got a certain capacity. There are stretch receptors and it can get bigger and stuff, but then there's a capacity when you're eating. So if you have a lot of bubbly water or just too much water, first of all the probiotics, the digestive enzymes, and the acid is going to get diluted. So now that juice is not strong enough to really like break the food down. And then if you drink a lot of water and ate a lot of food, and then the juices are really diluted and it's like, it has not too much room to move around and it's not that fire. Like I think of like the digestive juice is kind of like your furnace of your body. And if that fire is not really strong, it's not going to break it down. And then you're going to be like sluggish. You're not going to feel good. You're like, oh, I feel like, my stomach's not digesting because it's not. So it does matter when you drink water. I would say just sip with your meals. Don't chug water with your meals or sodas and things like that. Because of course, water is going to be the best thing. But when you're eating, just sip water to get the food down. And then I would say in between, like before, like way before or after eating. You can, if you want to chug some water, you're real thirsty, you love drinking and you want to get a lot of water in, that's fine. But when you're eating, just sip water. And so really, a lot of times they keep just bringing, like, we grew up probably drinking sodas and they keep refilling them. And I'm like, it's not good. It's not good for you. So that's one big thing, is to drink enough water, but also to be mindful when you're eating to not drink too much water. Even though we think that's good for us, it's not going to help the digestion. So that's one big tip I would say. And then also to take your time eating, to really chew your food, because there's digestive enzymes in your mouth, right? So that's where the digestion begins. So I am notorious for eating fast. Like, I have a hard time eating slow. I get it. In the Army, we had a thing, like, we actually had to eat fast in the Army, and I was like the fastest. I felt really proud of it. Like, I was like, because if you were to go to war, like, you don't have time to eat. You need to shove food in your mouth and just go. And you need nutrients fast to go. It's not about like enjoying the meal. So I understand, but I do have TMJ, like my jaw pops out of place. Like, it actually is something where chewing too much will even hurt my jaw. So I get it. It's a lot to chew your food, but to be mindful. I actually love the whole concept of mindful eating. It's something that is really fun when you start thinking of getting into it. And so if you just take your time to appreciate your food. So when you're looking at your plate, or even when you're like at the grocery store, the whole process of it, like enjoying the process. Some people probably are just like, they hate the whole process, and you're putting that energy into it before you're even eating it. So it's like knowing where your food is coming from. Then when you're like washing the vegetables, like all the process can be meditative. And then cooking and as preparing your meal with love, and then looking at your plate and appreciating the food and like smelling and textures and all of it. It's like the whole process of it, to really enjoy it and to take your time and to not have this negative energy in it, and then you're consuming that, right? So it's like when you talk about if meals are made with love, I feel like that's a real thing,
Totally. And I would assume too, within that meditative state of preparing, looking at the meal, taking in the smells, respecting it, your body's also probably producing more hormones of relaxation to help you digest that food at a higher rate. Yes. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. You eat with your eyes first. Your body's like getting prepared, So even when you start to put food in your mouth, your tongue is tasting different things in that food, and it's literally getting ready. Like it's sending signals to your gut to what to do to get ready to receive that and digest that food. So if you try to eat something super fast, your body's confused because it didn't have that time to like really intake all those different senses about it. And there's so much when you get into this stuff, it's really interesting. Like when you were talking about being relaxed to like, receive the food and enjoy and digest. Something I was thinking about that is interesting is that, how a lot of people they say, oh, I can never give up dairy. And they're so addicted to ice cream and milk products and stuff.
My fiance.
Cheese. Yeah. And hey, I get it. Like there's a reason. And the thing is, like, well, first of all, when we were babies, like fat and sweet was the two first tastes, right? So that's like the most comforting for us because of our mother's milk. But cow's milk, the thing is that's interesting is cow's milk actually has casomorphines, and casomorphines are actually for the baby calf, so that when the baby calf latches on and is, taking in the milk, it's going to bond with the mother and be relaxed. And it gives like a sense of euphoria to the baby calf to just relax and then drink the milk and digest the milk. Wow. So these feelings, like it's very small doses and stuff, but it's like there's so many complex layers to understanding mindful eating. Like when I say mindful eating, it's like in the holistic perspective, like why are you craving this food? Like what, like understand it. Even if you're going to say, I am craving this ice cream, and to understand why, and and if you're going to eat it, don't eat it with guilt and shame. If you're going to do it, just indulge and be so present and like just love it, like be happy about it. Don't like eat it and then be like beat yourself up about it. It's like if you're gonna do it with that full presence, and it is in the intention of it is important. But to understand maybe that there is a reason why we have food addictions and we have certain cravings, and sometimes it goes deeper, like into understanding like the science or like our childhood memory of something, or the why it's comforting us.
That's so good, because I think we often demonize these types of behaviors. I think society in general would say, maybe not society, but like we look at ice cream and these like high caloric foods, and we know for the most part, or we think we know, I should say, that they're bad foods, meaning they're very high in fat and they're very high in sugar. And then we label it as bad. So now the act of consuming it is bad. So we have this whole negative experience that revolves around it, right? And it becomes this kind of like almost purge. And you see this all the time, especially within like nutrition and the men I'm helping. Like we eat really clean, and then we get the opportunity, and then we purge, right? And you eat way too much, you overeat, and you feel guilty about yourself afterwards. And now ice cream or whatever you ate is just like a bad thing that makes you feel bad. To whereas if you can build this maybe more cohesive relationship and just enjoy it for what it is, maybe the allure of it might even deteriorate a little bit, because you're not in this feast or famine kind of mindset, as if I'm only eating healthy to look like, especially with the men, right? Or like with men I work with, I should say, it's like, I only eat healthy so I can look good. Right? Everything else is bad. Everything that's not helping me look good is bad. And then when you get the opportunity, you eat the bad food and you just feel horrible about yourself. So you go back to eating healthy just so you don't look bad. But now eating healthy even becomes this like punishment, so to speak, because you're only doing it because you don't want to look bad. Does that make sense? So it's like finding like this better relationship with these foods. And I'm guilty of all this. This is why I'm talking about it.
Yeah.
And especially you talk about the relationship we have with food early on. Playing football, it was always finish your plate, eat everything. If eat more than the next person, right? It was almost like a bragging right sometimes. Being a high school football player, somebody ate more than you, like I ate more than you. So you get like embedded with these behavior patterns of overeating, demonizing these foods, when we can have a more mindful relationship. And maybe that's just understanding that eating in general is very emotional, right? We have a lot of emotions attached to eating, and it's not just this like transaction, but it can be this mutual appreciation, just like our ancestors did when they were hunting down huge prey, and they'd kill it and they'd be thankful to the world, and they'd celebrate it as a ritual, and they'd prepare it with love and joy, and they'd use every single piece of the whatever the animal was to help preserve their life and carry on. So it's just an interesting idea of where we're at, because it seems like food is so transactional these days, and it's so maybe negatively charged sometimes.
Oh, yes. And to go on the other end of the spectrum, like you're saying about the being healthy, I mean, there's a thing called orthorexia, which orthorexia is when someone's so obsessed with being healthy that it becomes unhealthy. That's a real, like, that's an eating disorder,
right?
So you're like, oh, it ends up being obsessive, and then they're not enjoying it anymore, right? They're not enjoying eating healthy, and it becomes something that's damaging. So it's definitely, everything you said is so true. And I think even, growing up, like I was told to finish my plate because there's kids starving in other countries. It's like that was like a thing. Like there's kids starving in China or whatever, and I would be like, I
Right.
don't care. I'm so full. I'm gonna throw up. Like I couldn't handle it. So it's like, I mean, it's something that it's so ingrained in us to eat a certain way and the way you were raised. And so I think that's when, like I say to people, you're not just what you eat, because of course what you eat becomes your body, but it's how you digest it. But it's also like, how are you digesting your experiences? Like your whole experience of everything, because that energy gets stored in your body, and if you're not processing it, if so, like in our actual fat cells, toxins can actually store in our fat cells. And so I have actually thought about, like, well, I wonder if like our negative emotions we're harboring are also storing in those fat cells, because it's like, so with it, as within, so without. It's like, if you're, if you were a hoarder, your house is filled with all this stuff because it's all the trauma you haven't let go of, you haven't processed. It can be like that on the inside too. We can be like hoarding onto things and not letting go and not letting it process and release. So food is so much more than just food. I mean, it becomes so much. I do like what you were saying too about the ritual of food, and like I grew up with my father. He's a bow hunter, and he kills deer. He kills the deer himself. He butchers it himself, and even before, like when he's killing it, he has a Native American prayer that he does, and I did grow up eating really well in Connecticut, and of course ate unhealthy foods too. But I think having like some rituals around food, like sitting down at the dinner table, like even now with my boyfriend, like he comes home from work and we sit down and have dinner together and take that time just to do that. Because like I used to sit down with my family and just to take that pause, because sometimes people are just like, they're eating in their car, and if you're rushing, your brain doesn't even know that it's eating. It's not even like, say you're like driving and trying to eat, like your body is focused on staying safe. That's number one priority. It's like, we have to drive, we have to stay safe. You're not going to be digesting that food. So to sit down and have the ritual of like taking your time and appreciating it. And yeah, so there's so much that gets involved, just like I was saying with the mindful eating. And it's fun to start to learn about these things and understand why we do what we do, and to not punish ourselves for it. So because really, it's something that can easily get really out of control. And it's I always say, you can't like hate yourself into becoming someone you want to be. You have to just have that unconditional self-love, that you understand why you do what you do, and then you can change. That's like the paradox. It's like, I love myself just as I am. Okay, now I can change. Not like, I hate everything that's ever happened to me, I hate who I've become. Then that's not the cycle that we need. We need to be like, oh, I understand why I did what I did to survive, or I did these things, and I love myself. I love myself through all of it. And now I can understand, I have the awareness, and now I can, take the steps to take care of myself.
Yeah, I think the word that comes to my mind is like serenity, right? Just sacrificing to realizing that you're not going to be perfect. You're going to make these mistakes, but let's also acknowledge that we can build awareness around these behavioral patterns. We can learn more about ourselves so we can take purposeful action to create the change, as opposed to kind of pushing ourselves out of like pain and fear and self-judgment, and then everything just becomes this punishment, so to speak, as opposed to really just enjoying the process of becoming better and optimizing your health, and knowing how much that helps in every area of your life, right? So
Yeah.
when it comes to, we got a little off track, I want to bring it back in a little. So we talked about water, sipping your water. Okay, that was really good. We talked about mindful eating when it comes to preparing the food, but also I'm sure how you're consuming it, right? You're not just like mindlessly chewing like I do all the time, but you're really chewing the food, breaking it down, allowing yourself to digest. Any other kind of big rocks that you want to touch on when it comes to optimizing gut health for somebody?
I would say too, it depends on kind of also like where your gut is at. Like if you do deal with like constipation,
Right.
often it is also movement. So that's why yoga is really helpful too. So
I love that.
doing twist and folds. I actually even have a massage gun, and I'll like massage my belly sometimes if it feels kind of like things need to move around. So it's like a lot of times people talk about like detoxing, and there's so much hype around that word, and there's a lot of misinformation out there, but your body detoxes naturally every day. Like you're alive, you're you have all these ways that your body naturally detoxes through going pee and going to the bathroom, sweating, you're breathing, all of this. So it's just helping your body do what it does naturally and assist in that process. So it's like you don't need to it's just eating fibrous foods but drinking enough water with it. It's like you don't need to buy fiber supplements or laxatives unless you're like, say if you were on like a medication that makes you super constipated,
Right.
like painkillers. If you're under like a lot of painkiller medication, for if you're had like a surgery or something, you might need some, maybe you need some extra supplements, or like some kind of prune juice or something for that. But a lot of times it's just like needing to move your body, drink enough water, to eat more fibrous foods. There's actually two different kinds of fiber. So insoluble and soluble fiber. So insoluble is the kind that doesn't break down. That's kind of like the outside of corn or like celery, like it's like the tough fiber. And that's more like that goes through your digestive system and kind of scrubs. And the other is like the inside of an apple, and it's like becomes a gel and it moves along. So that's why it's important to eat fruits and vegetables and to eat raw fruits and vegetables, or you can cook them, but just not like over processed, because you need that fiber. And like the fermented foods, that's a great way to increase your digestion, because you can do like kimchi, you can do kombucha, you can have kefir, which is
I do
like
sauerkraut
a liquid kind.
twice a day.
Sauerkraut. Yeah, that Bubby's brand is so good. I don't know if you've
really
ever
good.
had it.
Have you had the kraut brand? Just kraut?
Yes.
That stuff's really good too. I'm obsessed
Awesome.
with it.
It's super.
I put it on
yeah,
everything.
It's in, and it's really fresh. It's like in the refrigerated section, it's good. It's really, it's something that they have to keep in the refrigerated section. So yeah, if you want to increase your fermented foods, that's just like simple things you can do, and have fun doing it. It's not like feeling like a chore, you get to explore all these different kinds of foods.
So when it comes to fruits and vegetables, the soluble and the insoluble fibers, are the soluble fibers like prebiotics in that sense, where they're helping aid the digestion?
The insoluble would be like the prebiotic.
The insoluble.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Because that's like the tough fibers. Those are the ones that your bacteria actually eat. The one that's like tougher for your stomach to digest, it's actually good for them. So
is there like a general like we talk about protein per pound of body weight for a lot of people trying to gain muscle mass. Is there like a amount of fiber that you like for people based on their body weight, or is it just like, let's not overcomplicate this, let's get some fruits and vegetables in with most of your meals?
Well, yeah, I feel like it for a lot of people, they just don't eat enough fruits and vegetables a day.
Yeah.
I would say, and a variety of them. So it's like, I think like you're supposed to get like 10 to 12 servings of vegetables a day, which is like way more than people are maybe getting 3 or 4. I don't even know if they're getting that many, maybe, so that would be like, and if you're going to do like, if people really love juices, you're not getting fiber in juice, and it's high sugar. So unless you're doing like straight green juice, like if you do celery, cucumber, spinach or something, that's good for a juice, but that also, that's because there's like no sugar in that. But if you're going to do, say, if you like if you, it would be better to do smoothies because you'll get fiber in your smoothies.
That was my question. Yeah. Cause you're not like deteriorating you're not literally taking the fiber out of it. It's still there. It's just a little more blended up.
Yeah. And really, some interesting things too, like some people have a hard time digesting like brown rice. And so like for someone like me that has a sensitive stomach and that it's not as hearty as someone else's stomach, like jasmine rice or like some white rices. A lot of times people demonize like white rice and stuff, but it is very gentle on your gut. Like if you have gut issues, the brat diet is really good. Like if you're really sick, it's like bananas, rice, applesauce and toast. So those kind of foods seem really like for like babies or old people or like if you're sick or whatever, but it's like when you're at that point where you can't digest anything, those are some basics. And sometimes you just need that but I also heard like brown rice has a lot of arsenic in it too. So it's like maybe stay away from the brown rice, but it's certain, it's funny because like you think about it, like Asian cultures, they eat a lot of white rice, and I don't know if they have the obesity epidemic, and they eat a lot of soy, and then people are always so scared of soy, like, oh my God, it's going to cause so much estrogen in my body. I'm like, calm down. It's not just what are you eating? You know, even if you eat a lot of soy, it would be different if you were like a baby eating a lot of soy, you know, like when you're developing, but eating
something that I'll do,
eating
sorry to cut you off,
soybeans.
Like,
sorry.
Yeah, something that I'll do before, kind of surrounding my exercise, like resistance training. I'm eating more processed carbohydrates before and after, just because they digest quicker. They actually boost my blood glucose levels quicker, so I can use that energy in my workout. But then also, most importantly, it's just easier on my stomach, right? Like if I don't want to wake up early and eat like a bunch of brown rice or something very fibrous right before I go to the gym, and now my stomach's trying to digest all this while I'm in this fight or flight mode as I'm like resistance training and training hard. So that's like an easy way, I think, for me, that I use like more processed foods to help supply energy into the workout, but also not get as like that stomach upsetfulness, that like irritation in the gut, I guess.
Oh yeah, right. Lifting weights, you're not wanting to feel like there's a whole bunch of heaviness in your gut and you're not digesting. That would just be uncomfortable. So no, that's a really good point. That's a good time to eat and that's the thing. And like, there's a time and place for everything. And it really is what you're doing consistently. It's not what happens like once and then like you're saying, you're burning the energy. It's really intentional. It's not,
right.
It's good for you at that point. So yeah.
So when it comes to, you kind of grazed over it a little bit. I want to backtrack on it. You talked about like yeast balance within the gut and the stool. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So if you actually have an overgrowth of yeast, it's called candida. And then this can show up on, like it can actually develop, say if you drink a lot of beer, you eat a lot of bread and pastas. This is some of the ways that you can actually get a lot of yeast in your body. Also, if you are super stressed out, it can overdevelop. Like there's a balance of it naturally in your body, but then if there's too much, it can show up as yeast infections, rashes, your skin can be itchy. You can even have candida of like on your tongue. So there is actually something that there's a few different like supplements that help to kill the overgrowth of yeast. Berberine is one of the best things you can do to take to like help with your blood sugar control. It's a natural supplement. It also helps to kill the overgrowth of yeast. But like for me, like I can't drink beer at all anymore, and I'm not drinking alcohol anymore. But like for the last few years, I haven't been able to drink beer. I used to drink it, but it's like I could like quickly feel the overgrowth of it in my body, and it can cause like brain fog and all these other symptoms. So yeah, so a lot of people might be suffering with that and not even realize it.
Gotcha. So, you talked about some of the symptoms. You said, what were the symptoms again?
So you can have yeast infections, rashes, itchy skin. You can actually have like white coating on your tongue, and you can get like thrush in your mouth. You can have like brain fog. Um, some of those are symptoms.
Gotcha. One other question. So when it comes to like, say someone, they haven't been eating much fruits or vegetables and they start reintroducing them into their diet, can you see like a large increase in just general bloating in intestinal stress because they're not used to digesting those foods, or it's like more compromised?
Yeah. So yeah, when it comes to fiber, there's been studies done that it takes getting past like the 3 or 4 week mark of eating fiber. Like if you're not eating that way, and then you want to like slowly increase,
Okay.
honestly, because it's something. And then people don't usually get past like that 3 or 4 week mark, and they're like,
Gotcha.
this is too uncomfortable.
Right.
I can't deal with
Right.
this. So it's like
Right.
they give up before their body got used to eating that much fiber, right? So that's what often happens. People are like, oh, I can't do this because I have these shakes that I sell, and everyone's like, oh, it makes me so bloated. I'm like, you need to stick with it. You got to get past that, and there's things you can do to help along the way and stuff, but it's also just getting used to it and being consistent with eating enough fiber. So that's definitely something that can happen. So I think like some people, they start to become healthy and then they're like, I don't feel good. Well, your body might be detoxing out some stuff, and then it's also just getting used to it. So it's like there's an adjustment period of you starting to feel better. You might almost feel worse before you feel better if you're really not that healthy,
Oh yeah, it's like, if you start resistance training for the first time in years, you're going to be ultra sore in the beginning. And as you continue to push through that, your body's going to rebound. Like I'll go on vacation for a week and I'll just do body weight stuff when I'm gone, and I'll come back and train and I'm super sore. Right. So it's just like anything else. It's going to take your body time to reacclimate, readjust, and react in the proper way to help nourish your body. And it's just interesting, it's interesting how far and detached our culture is and our society is with our bodies, with our nutrition choices, to think we can get to these points and periods of time where, you can eat fruits and vegetables and for you to be bloated from that, right? Because you haven't consumed them in such a long period. And that's something you were kind of talking about a little bit earlier. You talked about you being put off by government issued nutrition, right? And kind of the parameters that were set by somebody made all these decisions. Who knows what their interests were? Somebody decided for us how we should eat every day. Thanks for deciding for me. So like, what were some of the things that you saw? Maybe we could talk about general recommendations that you don't agree with, or just the mindset, the behavior around nutrition, like kind of go down that rabbit hole.
So some things I saw were like some of the actual agencies that were in charge of the whole dietetic industry were funded by like Nestle and Coca-Cola, and I'm just like, I don't like that.
Red flag.
Yeah, like you're the ones I have to like prove myself to like pay all this money and jump through all these hoops to like become certified, and you could just take it away from me if I don't follow your guidelines. Like I just don't, that doesn't line up with me. Like I know it's needed, because like some of the things I would learn is like how to tube feed somebody after like they've been in an accident, and like how to actually create that like formula, or someone's burned 90% of their body. What do you do to like feed them through their arm? It's like, okay, that's needed. I get that. But that's like, to me, that's not that's not what I wanted to do. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with, registered dietitians. I think it's a really needed service, but there's some darkness to it. If there is stuff that I was just like, nah, it doesn't sit right with me. And then like at the time that I was in school, it would show like, because then they moved from my pyramid to my plate is like the other thing. They went from that to that, and then it had like a circle of a plate and like how much you're supposed to have of like fruits, vegetables, protein, and like carbs, and then they had a glass of milk. And I'm like, that's what? Like it had an actual, and it says dairy, and it shows a circle on the side that's supposed to be with every meal.
Interesting.
And I'm like, no, that's the dairy industry funding it. Like you don't see commercials for broccoli. You don't see commercials for broccoli. Right. You see commercials for things that being like subsidies for and funding for, like you're not seeing a commercial for eating apples, like.
Yeah. Next thing you know, there's going to be a chocolate milk and a fucking cheeseburger from McDonald's on my plate.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, I was just like, I actually am very sensitive to dairy. So I haven't ate dairy in so many years. And so when I saw that, I was like, come on, like how can that be on there? Like that's like it's necessary part of every single meal is to have some dairy. And it is snuck into so many things, just like hidden sugars are snuck into so many things, or now seed oils, like they're, or like if you start reading labels, everything says like not just genetically modified, but now it says like contains bioengineered ingredients. That's the new thing that it says on almost like all of your food now. If you like read it, it contains bioengineered ingredients. And I'm like, what is this? What does that mean?
There's so like, you can learn so much if you just read the nutrition label of things. I was at a bachelor party last weekend and my buddies had brought we had like actual psilocybin mushrooms, but they also had this like store like bought mushroom mix that's supposed to be like mushrooms, but it's not like psilocybin. Right. So, I'm like, it's like a liquid and I'm taking shots of it and I'm like, oh wow, like I feel kind of like tired, I feel kind of fatigued. And I was like, that's interesting. So I looked at the ingredient label and one of the main ingredients was just tryptophan, right? Oh. So it's like, it's like, this is like cough syrup, basically. You know what I mean? Like, it's not the mushrooms that are making me feel that way. It's just like this tryptophan's making me feel super drowsy and groggy. It's like, there's probably nothing of actual substance in here when it comes to actual mushrooms.
I know.
So it's just like, it's crazy how, it's like, it's right in front of our face. Right. It's right in front of our face. If you can just educate yourself a little bit. I mean, you talk about added sugars, you talk about, grabbing like beef jerky, dude. I'll go to the grocery store or the gas stations, and every single gas station I stop by, I end up never buying beef jerky because I'll look and I'm not even kidding. I saw this bag of beef jerky the other day. It had 50 grams of sugar inside of a single bag of beef jerky. I was just like mind blown. This is supposed to be just a protein healthy snack. And it was laced, literally the second ingredient was beef, and then it was high fructose corn syrup or or not high fructose, but like sugar, right? Cane sugar, I think it was. But it's just, equip yourself, like be knowledgeable. Don't be, I always say consume consciously, right? Yes. Know what you're consuming, know why you're consuming things. Don't just blindly drink the glass of milk because somebody tells you that it's important to do it. Question that, ask why, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Or just like, even look into like, where does this come from? Like, I actually, I grew up eating venison, which is my dad, hunting deer in Connecticut. So I never liked beef. I never was a beef person because I just have such a taste for venison. And, so it's like my whole life, no, I don't eat beef. I don't like pork either. It's just too fatty. It just makes me feel sick when I eat it because it's just like too heavy and greasy. So I've always ate, like, I went through phases and stuff, but now so like my boyfriend was like, oh, I want to like cook some steaks. So cause I bought him like a nice grill for his birthday. And I'm like, sometimes he would try to give me a piece to be like, here, it's really good, try it. And I'm like, it's okay. And then he's like, why don't we go to the butcher shop? And because I was like, I want some ostrich, actually, because ostrich is, I don't know if you've ever seen it. It looks like red meat, but it's like super, super lean. And I liked it. And I thought, oh, look, let's just get some ostrich. And then we go there and there was elk. So now I eat elk like once or twice a week. But it's like from New Zealand, they farm them there. And you can like read all it. Like I researched it and looked into it. And it's like, I don't know. A lot of people have no idea where their food comes from. They just like, it's like funny to me that so many people are like, oh, they want to eat paleo. And I'm like, okay, sure. If you want to be paleo, like really be like a caveman, go out, hunt your food, you know, like kill it yourself, butcher it yourself, cook it over a fire. Like, you know, it's like, oh, this is a paleo bar. It's like, it's a candy bar in a wrapper. Like there's no way a freaking caveman was eating that. You know what I mean? Like, it's like cracks me up. Like when people are, it's like, you're not living like a caveman. Cause also the thing was with that paleo diet, they would go days without food, and they would, you know, have to like all the energy it took to hunt and kill. And then, you know, or like, say like sweets, if they came across a berry bush, it was once in a while or something, or like honey, they would actually have to get it out of the hive. Like they would have to like fight a bunch of bees to get the honey. Like, so it's like the effort it took to eat those sweets, you know, it's like, it wasn't just readily available. And we just take that for granted now that, and that, you know, it's like how many people really grow their own food or, you know, actually understand that process.
Yeah. So disconnected from where we once were. And I'm guilty of it too. Like I'll buy meal prep services and just stuff to make my life easier. Yeah, it's pretty fascinating time we live in because we have all of these conveniences, but it's like it's gotten out of control to where we don't have to really do. I mean, my fiance and I were talking about it. We were mentioning like we don't ever see our neighbor that lives right next to us. Like we've seen him once over the last 3 years, and we're trying to figure out like,
wow,
is this guy alive? Is he dead? And then we were having this discussion of like he might just not leave the house that much because.
Yeah.
We were talking about, you know, think about it. Like you could get your groceries delivered to your house. Okay.
Yep.
You can get any food delivered to your house. You could date people online. You would never have to actually go out and meet somebody, right? You can have all your conversations with people socially and socially online. You could work from home, right? Yeah. You could literally just live and never leave your house for like forever if you wanted. You know, it's kind of unbelievable. And I think with the exception of, you know, going to work, most people, they spend a majority of their time at the house and stagnant and not moving, right? Not using their body the way it was intended to be used, which is to run, to hunt, to jump, to climb, to forage, to build. It's pretty fascinating.
Actually, I say that too with yoga. Like a lot of times, especially with phones, we're doing this, right? We're doing this shape. This is like, and then I always say that like we as humans we're like caving in on ourselves. We're becoming weak in the front side of our body, like everything, all this whole area is becoming weak, and we're hunching, we have back problems. But it's like that, you know, so when I'm teaching, I'm like, open up, pull everything back, you know, open up the hips, and like these movements that we would be doing if we were like in fields or we were out there, like, you know, having to actually like be connected to the earth and work with like a life like that. But now we just sit at a desk, or we don't have to do that. So it's like, that's why I think yoga is important, because it's doing those opposite movements. And also I think it's another important thing is to get outside. Like I live in Florida. It's so nice because most of the year I can, you know, be barefoot and go to the beach, or I can go in my backyard and actually literally touch the earth and have that connection and have the sun on my skin. And, you know, that I think that's another huge part of actually your gut health too. Like having the connection to the ground is something that's healthy for you. So I think that's a big part of our unhappiness is there's some kind of disconnection somewhere,
And
and
there's
learning how.
such a delineation between like what you're talking about, which I do like every morning, afternoon, evening. I'm walking around my neighborhood or around the gym shirtless. I'm putting my feet in the grass. I'm getting connected outdoors, and I think it's almost like if you do that now, you get labeled, and not by everybody, but like hippie, or
Mm,
as if you are, weird for going out of your way to be in your natural habitat. And we're so conditioned to believe that. We are so delineated between like the materialistic drive of society, right, where we just accumulate all these things, and now we have like pretty much all of them, right? Like I have my phone here, I have my laptop, I got my nice headphones, I drove here in my truck, like all my needs are met, I have all of these things. We value that so much, and then what, right? Like what is that going to really serve and value? And we know the benefits of being outdoors in nature. We know how much it does for your stress, for your hormones, for your nervous system. You talk about grounding and the protons and the electrons or the neutrons that are involved with that, and changing your body's emotional state, but also your hormonal state. It's really fascinating to see. And I'm hoping by having more conversations like this, we can continue to share the message of, prioritize your health, take care of yourself, optimize yourself so you can have an optimal life experience.
yes, yeah, and to know it's not selfish to take care of yourself. I'm someone who's a recovering people pleaser, and
I love that.
and that's something of like real. That's very like that's real. I have thought, put other people, make other people happy that I love, and I'm like, okay, no, when I want to do something nice for my boyfriend, I'm gonna do something nice for myself first, and to take care of myself. Or when I'm like, I got paid and then I'm driving home from work and I'm hungry, and I'm like, instead of trying to get something like quick and easy, be like, no, I'm actually going to go and take myself out. I'm going to have a nice lunch. I'm going to sit there and I'm going to just enjoy it. And I'm not going to feel bad about it. Maybe it's a little pricey, and I'm just going to be like, I'm not going to feel bad about that at all. It's like, so it's like doing these things because we love ourselves, not because we want to punish ourselves, or, like eating well and exercising as a celebration instead of a punishment. And to know that like we have to be the best versions of us if we want to show up in the world for other people. Like the world needs the best version of us out there. If we want to make this place a better, this world a better place, we have to take care of ourselves first. It all starts with loving ourselves and like ending the war inside of ourselves, and really showing up for ourselves first. And then everything else can come next.
Yes, because you can be of much higher service and of value, right? If, let's just take the
Yes.
example of like the physical body. So if you're in pain or your stomach's killing you and you continue to do nothing about it, every time you go to talk to somebody or have an interaction with somebody, now you're feeling insecure because you're so bloated, your back hurts, you can't even be present because
Yeah.
you aren't happy or you don't feel good with your physical state, right? So now
Mm-hmm.
you can't engage, you can't keep eye contact, and you're just constantly worrying about what they might be thinking about you or your physical health, right? So it's like
Yeah.
these things present in every ways, whether it be your past traumas, your physical body. It's just it's a never-ending journey, and I'm super grateful for the time that you made today. I really enjoyed our conversation. I learned so
Me
much from you.
too.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you. This was really awesome. I'm glad we had this conversation.
Any things you can link as far as your website, and I'll put them in the show
Okay.
notes, but if you just want to shout them out right now,
Yeah,
for anybody
sure.
listening.
So my website is nourishtothecore.com, NOURISHED, the number 2, which actually does go along with digestion. I've realized after the fact, the number 2,
Love
the
it.
core.
Love it.
And then also on Instagram, I'm Paige with an I, _ nourish to the core. So yep, you can reach me through those. I'm going to be updating my website to be a little more streamlined, but right now it has really everything on there. And I just love helping people, and this is my life's calling. So I'm glad to get this information out there. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Paige. We'll talk soon.
All right. Awesome.
Bye.